Will the mystical King Arthur sword Excalibur be found this year? Like what? Like I saw this. Like Matt and I were talking about this show probably weeks ago at this point, and found out that this was a good time to do it. But then not only that, we got this weird sync happening where people are still in the British Isles, the United Kingdom, England, you choose your term there, get triggered as you will, they're still looking for the fabled Excalibur of King Arthur. Just the top of here, right? So the lore of King Arthur and his famed sword persists, even though Excalibur's whereabouts or very existence remain unsolved and unproven. But undeterred by skepticism surrounding its existence, a team of experts has embarked on an ambitious quest to locate Excalibur within the waters of Britain. It forms the cornerstone of a daring new television series, of course it's a television series, titled Weird Britain, where filmmakers, magnet fishers, technology specialists, archaeologists, and divers converge in pursuit of the elusive artifact at the bottom of lakes from Cornwall to Cheshire. Cheshire. I don't know. I'm not British, so you'll have to forgive me. Is it a legend or is it, well, we really don't know. But the point is of this article is that, hey, look, people are still searching for this stuff. Like this stuff resonates in the mind and keeps us chasing these things. And, you go back to, the bad Germans in the 30s, you don't want to say the word that triggers the algorithms, but you go back to that space and they were chasing these holy artifacts as well, the world over. And of course, their story is intertwined with the UFO aspect quite a bit as well. So do the two ideas merge in the sense of metamaterials as these sort of ancient relics? Maybe, just maybe. And I've actually got something that Matt doesn't know about, probably not, because I just found this before we started tonight, doing a little bit of digging as I do. But there's some wild ideas as part of this discussion. So the questions as we begin are, let's say this. Regarding ancient holy relics or relics of great power, is it the same or is it different than, let's say, discovering UFO metamaterials in the debris field at Roswell? Now, again, if you don't believe in any of that stuff, that's completely fine by me. I'm not even trying to tell you any of this stuff is real, but where is the difference between those two things and where do we draw the line? That's really the question tonight, and we'll talk about this in a bunch of different ways. So hope you guys are doing well tonight. We're here with Matsowl in California. That's Matt at the Temple of the Owl. And let's get a quick word from our sponsor. We'll be right back with more Troubled Minds, more Matt, and more metamaterials, and all the rest of this wild stuff that's always on my mind. Let's see. And we're talking about these UFO metamaterials and where that meets, let's say, ancient relics of holy power or otherwise. Again, we're talking about the Shroud of Turin. We're talking about Excalibur to start here. But anything to add to the Excalibur bit there, Matt? Do you think it's strange that they're still searching for this thing after all these years?
Yeah, I really like that article. I recommend you go read it. They were talking about that even until now, it's been accustomed that if a warrior dies in battle or passes away, they would go as like a respect thing. They would go and they would ceremonial or like ritualistically place the warrior's sword back into the water as a form of like an offerings to the water gods. And of course, the water, it can be healing, right? We need water, but also it can be destructive. And so, as a way to appease the water gods, they were offering these warrior swords back to them as saying, like, he served, and here's the time for us to put these swords back into the water as like a ritualistic sacrifice. And so now here we are with all these swords floating around this water, and they're using drones, new technology like drones and nets and even like lasers and stuff to skim the bottom of the lakes and find all these swords, and they're pulling all these cool like swords and artifacts out. But the thing about it is any one of these swords that we find could be Excalibur. And following the stories of King Arthur, always tripped me out, is that the sword and the stone and Excalibur are two different swords. And so if we can find Excalibur, and this is the sword that King Arthur used to win, to do what he did to become a king, if we could find that, and if we believe in any of these artifacts have magic powers, I would say that this could be something that it's worth looking for still.
Yeah,
even if it is a legend or a myth.
Yeah, well, wouldn't that be wild? They're like, oh, by the way, we found one at the bottom of this lake, and it's not rusted at all. It's like it never lost its blade. it's as sharp as a razor still. It'd be like, wait a minute now, and that's the kind of creepy stuff that. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just to add to it, at the last time that Excalibur is ever mentioned in the myths and the lore, is that when King Arthur is he's hurt really bad in battle. and his last battle, and he gives the sword to a friend. I forget the name, but it's in that article. He gives the sword to a friend, and he tells the friend to return it back to the lake, to the lady of the lake, because that's where he got it from. He received it as a gift from the lady of the lake, and so that's why he asked a friend to return it back. And so that's where we come to the conclusion that this sword could technically still be in one of those lakes, and that, like I said, going back to if we could find it, why not look for it? Go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. And the weird part is, like I said, they've been searching for this type of stuff for a very long time for a ton of different reasons. You know, you look at the Spear of Destiny, some of this stuff that's again the what's the other one? They say that the Ark of the Covenant, right? An army that carries it is undefeatable, right? Something to this, invincible. What the Spear of Destiny? They say that when you hold it, what was it? Maybe I'm mixing ideas in my head, but was it you are impervious to damage or something? I don't know. Like, I'm thinking my D&D brain is coming in here, and I think I've watched too many movies, but it's something like this. They many of these artifacts have these actual attributes that are supposed to be bestowed upon not just the person, but possibly the group of people that are using them. And look back to the story of Jericho. Was it Jericho, I believe? No, I'm not going to try Bible stuff. I'm too much of a knucklehead. I'll mix it all up. I'll mix all the names up. But the Ark of the Covenant, where they brought the walls down, I can't remember the name of that city. But in any case, you start to see that there's very, very specific things they use these ancient relics for that seem not just otherworldly, but can cause some damage, can do some things, can, nothing short of what we would call magic in this modern day. So I don't know, wild stuff. And that's what's on my mind tonight. That's where we begin. And notice that Diana Pasulka mentioned that this exact thing really is in the same league or same vein as, UFO metamaterials. And that's the thing that made me go, wait a minute now. Like, how different would it be finding Excalibur? Let's say it's completely not rusted, and it still has its blade. Like I said, it's still sharp to this day. And again, I'm just spitballing and making something up here. But let's say they do. How different would that be from finding, sort of a UFO piece in Roswell? You know what I mean? Like, what would be the difference between those sort of actual quote metamaterials in that sense? I mean, other than the context and sort of the religious aspect of it, but one's UFOs, one's religion, and sort of legends and relics and this sort of thing. So I don't know. I think when you consider the two things together, it makes you scratch your chin and go, what the hell's going on with this? Let's see. Okay, I got this mind-blowing one that I'll drop here before we take a break at the bottom of the hour. But anything to add to that, or what else you got, Matt? Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, and, that goes with all these artifacts, and a lot of these, any of the artifacts we're talking about, they call them the Passion Relics. They do seem to have some sort of magic power, and you can sit there and say things like, oh, like I said, they're myths, they're legends. People are gonna laugh. Oh, Matt and Mike, you guys are idiots. These aren't real. They're just made up, or maybe distractions for us. But here's the thing: if they're not real, then why were the Nazis looking for them? Joke, but we have all these stories of all these relics that seem to have these magic powers, and so if any of them, we talk about the Cup of Christ, the Holy Grail. We talk about the Ark of the Covenant. We could talk about any of these things: the Crown of Thorns, the pieces of the cross, and even the Shroud of Turin. What does that mean? That if these items have magic powers, then we'd have to assume that the Shroud of Turin would have these magic powers as well. And maybe there's something here that we have to find what it is and to tap into it. But one of my favorite parts of the movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where at the end, spoiler alert, at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they put the Ark of the Covenant in this box and they're moving it around in this giant warehouse, and the camera backs out and you see all these other boxes. I just remember being, as a kid, thinking to myself, what is in those other boxes? And so that's where the whole Warehouse 13 is kind of comes from. All these artifacts in this one place, and I believe maybe this could be the Vatican. And there's so many just relics and treasures just hanging out there. They're just piling up. They're collecting them all. So there has to be a reason why. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the odd part here is, it's one thing to be an archaeologist, it's another thing to be like, okay, let's find these relics that might even have a hand in sort of twisting the nature of reality itself in some ways, which a lot of these things have been described in that sense of, natural, or let's say supernatural powers. But not only that, if you look at the Roswell stuff and the metamaterials in terms of UFOs, they also describe these things as being, malleable in the sense you could kind of crumple that foil and then it pops back, the memory metal. Look, I don't know if that's real or not. This is one of the, the same thing, the mythologies that comes with, if you can put headphones on, pretty please, Matt, because I'm coming through there.
Sorry.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you put a speaker on real quick. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, something to that effect, right? You get these actual, what they say that maybe they can do time dilation, something to that effect, right? So I don't really know. There's no answers for me, just more questions here. And how do these two things come together? And here's a perfect example of how these two things actually come together. And this is going to blow your mind. I couldn't believe this myself when I found it. All right, this is from ScienceDirect.com, and it's goes all the way back to what's the date here? Looks like what's the date? Okay, December 2022. So many years ago. I was a wee lad back in December of 2022. But check this out. Headline is this. Links in the description if you want to check this out. Holy cross moon shaped dual band. Perfect metamaterial absorber for C-band application. Okay, it's like, wait, what? Like I had to read this 4 or 5 times to even get the concept of what they were talking about. I'm like, wait, so is this what I think this is, or is this something else entirely? So here's just a little bit, the first paragraph here, or half of the paragraph, so you guys can understand what I'm talking about. In this paper, a dual band electromagnetic perfect metamaterial absorber, a PMA, is presented for C-band application. This new design comprises of a moon shape and a holy cross-shaped metal bar, which are surrounded by a circular ring resonator, or a CRR, and an octagonal closed ring resonator, or OCRR. Flame retardant for dielectric material of thickness 1.6 millimeter is used as a substrate. Commercially available high-frequency electromagnetic simulator, CST microwave studio, used to simulate the proposed unit cell within the frequency range 2 to 6 gigahertz. In any case, they're talking about this as it actually absorbing energy of some sort. Okay. And the weird part to me was, I'm not sure if it's electromagnetics. If anybody's a scientist, hop in here and you can tell me all about this. The numerical simulation shows 2 resonance peaks at 4.10 gigahertz and 4.96 gigahertz with excellent absorption rate. The projected PMA, back to the PMA, is the perfect metamaterial absorber, exhibits maximum absorption of 99.99%, 4.10 gigahertz, and 99.57% at 4.96 gigahertz in transverse electric mode at normal incidence angle. I'm not a scientist, so 2/3 of this is over my head, but I had to double check. And for sure, they've crafted this thing in the shape of a cross and a moon, almost as if it's some ancient holy relic that they're using to absorb energy. And I was like, what in the world? Are you seriously kidding me about this? And why would they do that? It almost seems as if they're messing with us. What are we breaking down? What's up? I'm guessing Mike is having technical difficulties. Can anybody hear me? Okay. What's up? Test 1, 2. Anybody hear me? Can you hear me, Matt? This technical difficulties is bad if we're doing this.
I can hear you on Discord.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. What's up? Good on my end. Okay, here. Okay, everybody's. Yeah, I guess refresh the thing. Sounds good on Discord. Okay, okay. Just if you're having problems with the audio, please just refresh whatever you're watching on. But okay, and rewind to that thing that I just said, because that thing that I just said is one of these mind-blowing moments where you're like, wait a minute now. So we're creating metamaterials, but we're creating them in the basically in the vision, or the, let's say, visage of the old a cross and a moon shape. It's like, what? Are you serious? Like, why would we do this when, well, you could shape it like anything you wanted to shape it like, almost like it's like an ancient amulet of power or something. I don't know. Incredibly weird. Twitch is fine. I hear you. Okay, great. Thank you. Creeping me out, Fred. I think maybe your internet took a hiccup there. Okay, so anyway, that's what's on my mind tonight. We're here with Matsowl in California, Matt in California, of the Temple of the Owl, talking not just metamaterials in terms of UFOs and Roswell, this type of thing. Again, as has been heavily purported by Bob Lazar, David Grush more recently, this whole bit, reverse engineering UFOs, okay? Well, think of it this way. What if we're actually possibly trying to reverse engineer, which is the name of the show tonight, Reverse Engineering the Divine, UFO Metamaterials and Magic Relics, and where do these two lines intersect and do they overlap? And that becomes, well, exactly where we need to be. We're here with Matt in California and taking your calls at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. We're here with Matt in California, Temple of the Owl, and we're talking all this wild stuff. And if that doesn't blow your mind, I'm not sure what will. Holy Cross Moon shaped dual band perfect metamaterial absorber for C-band application. They created this thing to troll us possibly, like it's some ancient relic, but it's a new metamaterial they're working on. Two worlds collide. What the hell's going on? We're talking about reverse engineering the divine. Now, the concept itself is a little bit creepy. We've talked about this, at least conceptually, in the past. But where does the line cross, and how much does it commingle when we're talking about UFO metamaterials and these magic relics of old? For instance, if we found Excalibur today, do you think that it would be classified possibly as maybe something similar to a metamaterial, to, again, something you would find in the field at Roswell? And what does that mean? Look, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, as I always say. I'm just me. And these things, I don't even know what to believe, to be perfectly honest. How much of this stuff becomes, legit, and how much of this stuff becomes, a fairy tale folklore type stuff that may or may not resonate to the modern time or even beyond. I don't really know. And that's exactly the point of the conversation, because notice you don't have to have answers or a premise or anything other than some ideas to really talk about some things in an abstract way. And that's what this has always been about, not trying to wag my finger at you and tell you what the real truth of reality is, because the hell if I know. I mean, it's a big universe, and I'll bet you there's a bunch of things out there that when we find out the truth, it'll shock the hell out of us as humans. But anyway, what do you know about this? How much is this crisscross? Where's the line drawn between a UFO metamaterial and something like a metamaterial that might be Excalibur, or again, a piece of the True Cross, or we're talking about specifically Christian religious iconography, but it could be anything. It could be anywhere in the world, any of these ancient religions where they were doing things for Lord knows what. And these, Thor's hammer, stuff like this. Like, imagine if they found some hammer that was completely unrusted somewhere in some cavern and nobody could pick it up. Wouldn't that be weird? You know what I mean? This type of stuff. And so would that classify as sort of a UFO otherworldly metamaterial? I would think so. And so the question becomes, well, where does that line draw and how much does it commingle? Let's go back to Matt in California. Matsowl, what's up, my friend? Welcome back. I see you're bouncing around back and forth there. Everything okay?
Yeah, can you hear me good?
Yep, I can turn you up a little bit, but you are good to go. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna jump onto my phone. Okay. But yeah, this is great. Talking about this kind of stuff, and back to, like I said, we'll say I don't know, because it could be any of those things, right? It could be, what's the difference? And a lot of this stuff comes from that book, American Cosmic. I just finished with Diana Pasulka, and I really like her kind of thought process on things, because she's like us. She kind of says, I don't know. And I got this this kind of theory from my friend James Salcedo. He always talks about, we put these things in these categories, between paranormal, UFO, and experiences, religious experiences. And so it brings it back to, he always says things like, what's the difference between a UFO and an orb? In some ghost stories, we see orbs. And so it kind of, what's the difference? And so it goes back to that whole, what's the difference between a paranormal experiences, someone see ghosts, a religious experience where someone sees, Mother Mary in the sky, or a UFO experience where people see UFOs. And so what's the difference between these things? For all we know, some people see ghosts, some people see UFOs, but what if UFOs are apparitions like ghosts? And some people can see them and some people can't. And so it really brings it to the question of, like I said, we don't know. People have these different experiences, and everyone has their own unique experience with it. So all these things could tie together, whether it's paranormal, religious experiences, or UFO experiences, some sort of extraterrestrial experience. It really starts to make me think maybe we shouldn't classify them in these, we shouldn't clump them into these groups. Maybe we should look at it all as one big thing, and we're all just experiencing it differently. So that's my take on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no sweat. That's great stuff as always. And I think that's part of the deal here is that sort of the ambiguous naming conventions when it comes to unknown things. You know, if you're into ghosts, you're going to see ghosts. If you're into, heavily religious in some way or another, you're going to see sort of maybe religious figures. If you're into UFOs, you're going to see UFOs. And so it really becomes what we expect to see out of our reality, which suggests a great many really bizarre things. But of course, what is your take here? What is the difference between let's say the Excalibur, the mystical King Arthur sword, which they're searching for, again, to announce a television show. Of course, wink, wink. I've got my own television show to announce as well that I'm producing myself. But wink, wink, you know what I'm saying? Like the hype factor, this whole type of bit. But it's like, still though, this type of thing resonates in our mind. And how much of this really overlaps with the UFO world where they're talking about reverse engineering actual craft? Is it, again, just like Matt said, the definitions seem to be incredibly foggy here. And what will we expect to find and how does this mix?